Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Vex Comics, where I cover comic book characters, story arcs, and more every week at 7 a.m. on Monday Pacific time. I generally cover DC, but some other stuff gets sprinkled in every so often. For this season of the show, I've been covering the new era of the DC comic universe in a timeline order. So episode 62 picks up where episode 61 left off, and 61 picks up where 60 left off, and so on. And if you're following along, we just finished the Dark Knight's Metal arc and kind of the aftermath of that. And if you're not following along, then episode number 59 is a really good jumping on point because that's where this season started. I hadn't really explained anything up to this point, so I figured I'd put this little disclaimer out there to explain the direction of this season, since normally I've done episodes in kind of a standalone format, but I really like doing it this way instead. Anywho, today is actually a slight detour because we have to explain a few upcoming characters in our bigger story. And today we're going to be covering the modern edition, as of 2025 at least, of Brainiac. Because in some of the upcoming episodes, he's a kind of a bigger character. So I like to cover individual characters before I cover the story that involves those characters. Make sense? We're all on the same page. So we're first reintroduced to Brainiac back in 2008, actually. And it kind of marked a pretty stable version of Brainiac, since in the past it's been fairly inconsistent of what his whole deal is, who he is, what he's doing, just kind of all over the place. Is he a robot, a human, fragments of a being? Who knows? But this story set out to get rid of all that and consolidate it down to one definitive version, which is who we have today. It even got a nice little retcon to make it all make sense with everything else. So in this version, Superman learns that all his past interactions with the classic Brainiac was always just against his drones or probes and never against the true Brainiac himself. And we get a sneak peek into the true Brainiac, who we see as a cold, calculating alien who travels across galaxies in a massive skull-shaped ship, shrinking and bottling entire cities to preserve them while destroying the worlds they came from. It's kind of he's the collector. And doing this served a few purposes for Brainiac. He was a bit of a control freak, but he was also cataloging all life in the universe, collecting civilizations that he could kind of perfect. But doing this, he ended up trapping everybody from the city within this controlled bubble. He'd steal a capital or major city, leaving a giant crater where it used to be, and pretty much turn it into a snow globe, where all the people still lived their lives and everything, but they'd just been captured and shrunk down super tiny, and they're still to scale to the city, but they're stuck kind of in the city. And now under the rule of Brainiac, who can send in tiny drones that are also shrunken down to act as Brainiac police. So it wasn't amazing. But he was obsessed with learning everything. So he would do this in an attempt to learn everything about these civilizations and these cultures, and then keep them as a collectible and then move on. destroying the world it came from, so that he had like the perfect version of that like group of people. So not great. But we only figure this out because Superman goes to track down Brainiac's ship and finds it. Now, not only does he find the ship, but on the ship, Superman finds the city of Kandor bottled up along with countless other cities. And Kandor, if you don't know, was the capital of Krypton. The people of Krypton never knew what happened to Kandor because one day it just vanished, which was a pretty big deal because it was home to like tens of thousands of Kryptonians, all still alive, but just like mini, which was a crazy amount of new information for Superman because he went from the last living Kryptonian, like allegedly, to finding a whole major city full of them. So it became a super personal mission for Superman. And not only this, but we learn that Brainiac is a cosmic level predator who specifically destroys planets after stealing its best example of that world's perfect civilization. Which we just kind of covered, but that kind of implies he's the reason Krypton was destroyed in the first place, which isn't too great for Superman. Makes him not the happiest camper. Now Brainiac might be mostly humanoid, but he's pretty intimidating. He's like a super genius, collecting and processing all the knowledge from every civilization he steals around the universe. Paired with a towering biomechanical body where usually before this he was kind of shown as like a frail mastermind behind a bunch of machines. It's like he would just like destroy the machines around him and he would just be like this like weak guy, which isn't the case anymore. Now he's like jacked. So our initial intro into Brainiac leads us to Earth, where he's been like sending different probes for some time now, and the probes actually discovered Superman, who was the last living Kryptonian, and this would have been after Brainiac had already got Kandor. So Brainiac had to have him, in the city he lived in, because might as well, finds the last living Kryptonian after he thought he captured all of the perfect example of a Kryptonian and destroyed the planet, so there'd be no other ones left, and he would have the forever perfect example that he could lock away and seal. And now there's Superman, who's kind of broken that rule of his. So he arrives on Earth and attempts to bottle Metropolis. And this is a pretty big fight. I mean, Brainiac hasn't really had an actual challenge since this new iteration of him. And we kind of jump into his existence, where we don't really know what happened in most of Brainiac's past, since they kind of gloss over most of it. Just to say he's an alien city collector and action, so they don't really go too deep into his origins and lore and everything. It's just this is what he does, this is the deal. He's out there doing his thing. He's doing it. This is him doing it. He's at Metropolis doing his thing, collecting the city. But this main fight turns into a very delicate situation because Brainiac holds an entire city of all the remaining living Kryptonians that he could destroy if he wants to. But Brainiac, if Brainiac steals Metropolis, it's kind of assumed that he's going to then destroy the Earth as well. So Superman's kind of in a precarious choice situation. Ultimately, Brainiac is stopped because he didn't expect a second Kryptonian, Supergirl, who was able to secure Kandor while Superman protected Metropolis. But unfortunately for Superman, he wasn't able to protect his Earth father, Jonathan Kent, from Brainiac's drones. And kind of pulls a Batman, killing his Earth dad. Which, I mean, he didn't necessarily kill his Earth dad, but John had a heart attack. But he had the heart attack because of everything happening with Brainiac. So he did it, you know. Ultimately, at the end of the day, Brainiac caused him to die. And doing this kind of cemented himself, like this one story cemented himself as like one of, if not Superman's greatest enemy. Like, probably even over Lex Luthor. I mean, Lex Luthor didn't destroy Krypton, kill his dad, capture the rest of the remaining, like, people of his race, you know, different levels. And he's not just like a recurring villain, but like a cosmic force tied directly to Krypton, Superman, and Superman's personal life now, because now he's also killed his dad. so Brainiac has to retreat. You know, Superman's not having that. He's already taken too much. He's not going to let him take any more. So Brainiac retreats. And we don't hear much from him for about like 5 years. Until the Forever Evil arc starts. And in like his time away, he'd been planning much bigger things. Specifically destabilizing alternate Earths. And specifically Earth 3. Which houses the crime syndicate, which they're like a gang of the good guys that are actually bad guys. Like Earth 3 is a world where good guys of Prime Earth are the bad guys, and vice versa. So it's like the Joker's a good guy and Batman's bad guy, and you know. And the crime syndicate is supposed to be like the Justice League, but it's made of like Ultraman instead of Superman, who's evil. So this destabilization was like essentially Brainiac destroying Earth 3. It was destroyed from the monitors, but it was Brainiac. It was just to make it simple. It was him. Because he moved on from just collecting cities from the universe and learned about the multiverse, which expanded his horizons and knowledge quite a bit. So he learned about Earth 3 and that there's multiple Earths. And now we have this newer, smarter Brainiac who was way more powerful than the one Superman faced 5 years ago. And he kind of elevated from bottling up cities and civilizations to bottling up timelines and realities, building entire collections of alternate histories and worlds, and became known as God Brainiac or Infinite Brainiac. Like he like fully transcended thanks to the same multiversal energies that were released when like Barbados would destroy a failed Earth and recycle it to be used again. Like the energy in the Earth, they could recycle it at the World Forge and use it to make a new Earth or a new universe. Only with Brainiac, he was kind of destroying stable universes and absorbing their stable multiversal energies, which would like open up his mind to the concept of like a grander multiverse and cosmic forces, and like elevated his powers like crazy. And like he's so strong now that the writers of Forever Evil didn't even have him fight because he'd probably be too strong and it'd be like a one-hit kill. There's like nothing they could do. And so instead he ends up kind of being stuck in the background, kind of like orchestrating events, like all the events of Forever Evil, being labeled as the threat beyond threats, as like a being powerful enough to erase universes, which was a pretty big deal because it wasn't just like Superman that was like, uh-oh, you know, even the crime syndicate, like the bad guys were afraid of him because he could just erase the universe, you know. But during the end of Forever Evil, our god Brainiac is finally revealed. He emerges as a colossal abstract entity looming over the multiverse, like no longer humanoid and instead now a cosmic constant, almost transitioning into a primordial force as an observer and manipulator of time itself. And he only gets more and more powerful with each universe he absorbs and bottles. So it's like a huge scaling system. Like it keeps getting easier, so he keeps getting more power faster. And the more power faster makes it even more easier. And around it goes, like doubling your power 100 times. And then eventually, if you're doubling it 101 times, it's like an insane amount more. But now, our Brainiac wasn't just a collector. He was an innovator. Like yes, he could collect universes, but what good is a collection if you couldn't also create, like, from what you've learned? So that's what he did. And he attempted to merge and manipulate these bottled realities to create and understand the fundamental rules of creation and nature. But of course, you can't just remake universal life, and you know, you can't just redo it. So the chaos of these universes and timelines and fundamental laws all combining fractured their timelines and kind of like created a bunch of paradoxes, which overwhelmed Brainiac's multiversal energy that he's been absorbing this whole time, which like shut down his whole power altogether because it just like created too much of a paradox where it's like his power couldn't exist, but he needed the power to make it happen. But so it is happening, but it happening meant he couldn't have done it. And it was like just making these like paradoxes where he just ended up overwhelmed and the energy was like depleted. It like it neutralized itself, which really like left him vulnerable for the first time in a very long time. It's kind of like when, I mean, there's a lot of correlations between him and Barbados at this time. Like when the source wall got attacked, because that's what was giving Barbados his power. Barbados got like depowered. So you take away the power source and then he doesn't have any power. Not only that, but because all his energies got fucked up, he ends up getting like pulled into his own bottled world, where we learn that all of the worlds he's collected all now exist together on a single like makeshift world, like outside of time and space, known as Telos. So it ends up as this world is full of mismatched cities from all different universes. Like you have Flashpoint Gotham with pre-crisis Krypton next to like Elseworld cities, just like all over this huge planet. And with Brainiac trapped here, he decides to at least make it fun. Like he's not powerless, so he still runs this like Telos world, and decides to add in an element of a massive gladiator testing ground for all the heroes from countless eras of all the worlds he's collected and placed in this one new place. And he kind of like forces them all into like fighting, or their city, you know, suffers under the thumb of Brainiac's faithful artificial servant, who is also called Telos. So it's like a one deal thing. Like the planet is the thing that with the AI and the stuff in it. But as always with Brainiac, he's his own worst enemy. Because as it turns out, if you pit different timelines against each other to find like the strongest one, you end up finding the strongest one. Not only that, but all these changes and paradoxes kind of box him into a corner where he was like imprisoned by his own creation. And eventually the now strongest heroes of the captured cities came together in a weird like standoff with Brainiac, since if Brainiac does die, there's no real promise that they'll ever escape, but they're also just kind of sick of being trapped. So, you know, not wanting to call their bluff, Brainiac kind of decides he's got to suck it up, take the L, and rather than die, he makes a business decision and chooses to undo all the damage he's caused, using all the rest of his power to restore everyone back to their proper times and worlds, which kind of played into DC's infinite possibilities concept that they used as the framework for the DC Rebirth era, which is kind of a nice way to tie it all together. And after this time, we don't really see Brainiac for a while. We actually skip another 5 years at this point. Kind of give Brainiac a chance to sit and think about what he's done, maybe learn and grow. Not in the evil, bad, cosmic entity way, but you know, you get it. But we actually start crossing paths with our story this season now, where the source wall is shattered. And we have a bunch of new cosmic energies starting to flood into the DC universe, which releases, well, that the energies don't release it, but the shattering of the source wall releases the Omega Titans, which are 4 entities representing entropy, wisdom, wonder, and mystery. And each Titan traveled the universe to like judge planets, consuming any planet that didn't pass the test. Where like they kind of tested it based on their own thing. Like they tested their wisdom, and if they failed the wisdom tests, then the Titans would consume the world. But luckily, Brainiac was pretty in tune with the multiverse and was kind of the first character, good or bad, that recognized the full danger that these Titans posed to Earth specifically. And realized that the Justice League alone couldn't stop the Omega Titans. It just like wasn't going to happen. They're just not strong enough, period. So he creates a plan, which is kind of a new direction for him. I mean, he still appreciates the value of collecting planets. So, like him, if the Omega Titans destroy the planets, then that isn't good for him. You know, they're destroying his collectibles that he hasn't collected yet. So in his own way, he decides to help by kidnapping a bunch of the heroes and villains to make the best teams to counterbalance these Titans. Because he doesn't have any like hero villain biases that like everyone else has. So he can just objectively make teams of people that would work better for like to counterbalance these Titans. And instead of being like, oh, he doesn't like him, so I'm not going to put them together. It's just like, these are the guys for that like specific guy. These are the wisdom guys. I don't care if they're good or bad. They're all going to be together. They're going to fight the wisdom guy. And granted, he did kidnap everyone. But it was like a kidnap them and being like, okay, guys, this is how we're going to stop these big Titans. Which made all the heroes be like, okay. Which is kind of like the first time he's being good. So it was definitely like a close watch situation for a lot of the good guys. It was like, why is Brainiac helping us do this thing outside the, outside of the preservation thing where he restored all the worlds? Because that was kind of his first like good thing, but none of those people are around, so nobody really knows that happened. And it was kind of like, do it or else, because he would have probably died. So I feel like it doesn't count. But he's kind of doing a good thing now. However, even though he was trying to do good, it was too little, too late. And Amanda Waller decided that Brainiac was still too strong and didn't trust him. So she attacked him on Earth, or she took over all of his drones when he was busy, like orchestrating all of this stuff, which left him kind of vulnerable. So she seized control of all of his drones and dramatically destabilized his whole plan and ultimately kills him. It didn't like stab him or anything, but like the takeover of everything made him like implode. So our beloved Brainiac dies before he could finish helping Earth. But it was kind of like the thought that counts, He was the first to see the scale of the new cosmic changes unleashed by the Source Wall, and in his last moments tried to unite all of Earth's greatest heroes and villains together to save the universe. It's kind of a good, it's a nice redemption. And his death did cause a few shifts. It left such a big power vacuum because now nobody knows the complete picture of the new cosmic order of things. Like nobody. So everyone is just kind of flying blind. Luckily they are able to defeat the Omega Titans, but it's really improvised and really chaotic. Luckily the teams were already made by Brainiac at the time, which is all they really needed, and that was enough to push them into winning. But everyone, like all the best heroes and villains and everybody, were kind of on defense the whole time, and not really anybody taking charge in any of it. And now, worried about what might come next, because they just had to defeat Barbados. They just had to deal with the Dark Knights. Now they got these Omega Titans that are even stronger. And the only guy that knew everything that was happening was Brainiac, who is now dead. So what could be next? And now they have no idea. And with the universe's like kind of big picture planner gone, we have Lex Luthor, who decides to step into his shoes and lead the universe into his own vision by reestablishing the Legion of Doom. And it makes Lex actually really powerful. Powerful enough to bring back Brainiac from the dead. Not really in his normal, like, super powerful form, but kind of like a reconstructed version. Like, he's still a genius level strategist kind of guy and like cosmic level villain, but not quite as strong as Lex is now, and is more viewed as like a key intelligence member of the Legion of Doom. Like, kind of in the background, and acted as like the multiversal informant for Lex. And Brainiac's role in this is fairly minimal, at least what we see, since it's mainly just used as an explainer as like to why Lex knows this or that. Like, that's pretty much his whole role now. So we pivot away from Brainiac to his experiments, who were mostly unknown before this point. a lot of it was created via like cloning himself to make a like better, smarter version of himself to kind of like divide and conquer. He created real Drox, aka Brainiac 2, Liral Dox, Brainiac 3, and Quiral Dox, Brainiac 5. We don't talk about Brainiac 4. We just skip over that one. Now, not all of these are clones necessarily, but for the sake of explaining it, they're all his kids, and generally all become their own independent people. And they pretty much all go through the same kind of storyline where their friends learn that they're a descendant of the evil Brainiac, destroyer of universes, and then the friends stop trusting the new Brainiac and get like skeptical of him and see him do something kind of suspicious that they're like, oh shit, he's trying to be Brainiac. It's actually Brainiac again. And then the new Brainiac proves that they're a good guy and the day gets saved. And that kind of is a pretty steady like plot line with any of these Brainiacs 2, 3, and 5. So we do have a few Brainiac kids running around being good guys, and now that they're even smarter than Brainiac 1. But during this time, a lot of other events happen in the DC universe that we'll cover in time, like throughout this season at least. And you might think that after Brainiac was revived and basically like cucked by Lex, that we had heard the last of him. But no. After years of working from the shadows behind Lex, Brainiac launched his most ambitious plan yet. Now this arc is called the House of Brainiac, and like just came out. So I'll probably cover the House of Brainiac a bit later and get a lot more deep into it, but for the sake of Brainiac's biography, I have to include it, at least the main parts of it. But we discover that Brainiac had been kind of getting up to his old tricks again and collecting alien races across the cosmos again, much like he did with the cities almost 20 years ago. But now his focus was set on powerful warrior species, specifically the Zarnians, which is the same species as Lobo, which I don't think I've covered yet, which is weird. He's really popular. I don't know why I didn't. But he creates an army of Zarnian soldiers under his control. And this time he has a new philosophy called the House of Brainiac, which he sees as like an evolutionary extension of himself, where he wanted to not only collect these worlds, but rule them with his own army. And he goes all the way back to his roots and sends his new army to fight against Superman and Supergirl for beating him all those years ago. But instead of the goal being preserving the cultures as a collectible, he's now weaponizing it, and like weaponizing the entire species. And this kind of places him back on top as like an A-list Superman villain. But it's, of course, not just Superman he's after. He turns on Lex as well, and kind of took Lex's sister to conduct experiments on her, as like, you know, Lex starts bargaining for her safety, and he's just going scorched earth with everybody. But during this time, the main takeaway is we learn of a new experiment that Brainiac has created called the Brainiac Queen. And it acts as kind of a counterpart to Brainiac, where he is all calculation and intellect. She represents control and domination, and is honestly way stronger than Brainiac. and ends up being the true threat of the whole arc. Like, he almost made her too powerful because Brainiac had his own flaws that, like, he'd never be able to overcome, like obsessive knowledge gathering that would hold him back from acting in certain cases. The Brainiac didn't have that, which really made her rise as the true future of his, like, full legacy. Not like his 3 kids who were all, like, good guys. She was more of a terrifying cosmic power being. And I was a really big fan of this because I like anytime there's a new big bad villain, and the Brainiac Queen is exactly that. During this arc, she pretty much cements herself as a standalone long-term villain rather than just like a temporary ally or created drone from Brainiac, and has everything that the original Brainiac kind of lacks. But of course, in classic Brainiac fashion, he is his own worst enemy, and after unleashing the Brainiac Queen on the super family, he realizes that he doesn't have the strength to control his Zarnian army or the Brainiac Queen, and that the very dynasty he built is starting to outgrow him. So during the height of the battle, Brainiac makes a surprising shift. He actually sacrifices himself to help Superman stop the Queen and prevent his empire from tearing the universe apart, because that's kind of where they were headed. So new redemption arc, which is kind of like the official passing of the torch within DC. This is a really big event where DC kind of outgrew the standard Brainiac and wanted to shift into a more powerful edition in a different way. It kind of removed this forever threat of an all-intelligent, powerful being that destroys universes and knows every cosmic entity. And so he kind of needed to get nerfed a bit and kind of spread his power out a little bit too. But the only way to make that happen was for him to ultimately sacrifice himself. And so he entrusted the collected worlds with Superman and saved the universe yet again. Now, the Queen still survived along with the army, but that's a problem for another day. So for now, we close the book on Brainiac until he's potentially revived again. Who knows? I guess we'll find out. In the meantime, the Brainiac Queen sits on his devastating throne. And I will see you next week, Monday at 7 a.m. Bye-bye.
Or some Brad Pitts, elastic, clapping asses, laps and dances, cold whites, Marilyn Manson, American anthem, I'm handsome, with finances, with all the answers, getting brain like I scans it, brain damage. Oh, you a Trump bitch, with a big butt, I'm a rich nigga, with a big gun, turn around, I'ma watch it like a sitcom, I'ma smash like a fist bump, full gun clip, give me brain, no dumb shit, full gun clip, give me brain, no dumb shit.
Right hit the booty club and treat it like a holiday. We taking all the parking spaces they could tolerate. Clean coops with street money, dirty sedans. 30 bitches in the crib and that's word to my man. All kills like she melting like she Carvel. Gucci slippers, look at him sipping on a cocktail. Funny money, I should call it, that's how the bitches giggle. All up on me like I'm on I I split it down the middle. They be talking cash shit, writing bad checks. Paying advance down, put you in the bad steps. Yellow Lamborghini, miss me with that ram shit. Versace underwear, 100